I'm Barry Kibrick, and I want to thank all of you who have been tuning into our show via YouTube. As a staple on PBS, I'm so grateful that you can now see our full episodes online. I hope you're enjoying them, and please subscribe to our channel so I can continue to make them available to all. Thank you. We often feel insignificant within our vast universe, but what if we could see a grand change in that perspective? I'm Barry Kibrick, and if anyone can help us make that shift, it is my guest, Dr. Deepak Chopra. As a pioneer in integrated medicine and personal transformation, he now goes one step further with his co-author Minas Kafatos. Their book, You Are the Universe, brings a new alliance of science and spirituality to help us discover our cosmic self and why it's so important. Dr. Chopra, we were just talking, it's been close to 20 years since the last time you've been on the show. Welcome to Between the Lines.
We both look younger.
It's because we meditate now, right? It is so great to have you. I want to start with this concept of the book. You say that the one relationship that we really aren't in tune with is our own relationship to reality.
Yes, because we confuse our experiences of what we think reality is with what is more fundamental that gives rise to the experience of reality. So there is something called perceptual reality. So this is a cup, right? This is an experience. It's a perceptual experience. Where is this experience happening? If I asked you right now, where are you experiencing this mug or this body or this room?
Well, it's not fair because I know the answer. I read the book. It is in the consciousness. It is in our, literally in the mind of our consciousness, not the brain. It's in our consciousness.
Well, the brain shows what is called a neural correlate. So according to current science anyway, which I contest in the book, there are photons that are bouncing off this object. They're coming to my eyes. They're going through the retina. They get inverted. In the retina, my eyes 9 centimeters apart, 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. The retina is a little bit curved. And all that's happening in the retina is electrochemistry. There's no image in the retina. If you were to look at the retina, and if there were an image, you'd see two of me upside down and curved, and 9 centimeters apart and about this size. So wherever seeing is happening, it's not in the eyes. Well, the next thing that current science would say, well, if it's not in the eyes, it's in the brain. Well, then how do I fit inside your brain? How does this room fit inside your brain? Yes, something is happening in the brain, electrochemistry. But the experience is this. The experience is this. The experience is this. Where is it happening? And you just said something, which is from the book, yes? It's happening in consciousness, awareness, whatever you want to call it. But then where is that? Where is consciousness? And you can't find it, right? You can't see it, you can't touch it.
Yes, but yet we know it is the one thing we are certain exists.
Yes, it's the one thing we know that, well, we know we exist, right?
Right.
And we know that whatever this is an experience in that existence. But what is that existence? If you can't find it, if you can't touch it, if you can't taste it, you can't smell it, you can't see it, then it has to be formless. And if it is formless, if it has no form, then it can't be in time. And if it is not in time or has no location in space, then, you know, I know that physicists get upset with me when I say this. It has to be non-local. The real you, which is the formless being in which all this form is being experienced, is not in space and time. and therefore is not subject to birth and death. What is subject to birth and death is experience. For example, the experience we had when we started this conversation is over, already over.
I hope not, because I have still at least 20 minutes to fill. So
No,
we need to go back to that
but
reality.
But the difference between past, present, and future in terms of actual time is almost zero. The past is an imagination, the future is an imagination, and you can't hold on to the present, because as soon as that starts, as soon as that experience arises, it fades. We cannot explain how we experience this world. We cannot explain how we experience this body. We cannot explain how we experience a thought, and we cannot explain volition. And that's all we have. And yet, you know, we call this reality. We have no idea how we are experiencing it.
We may not have an idea how we are experiencing it, but you just said the word explain. And yet, you've spent a few minutes now explaining it. So I don't quite agree with that. I believe it is explainable. We just have not quite figured it out yet. See, the perception, if you say, is consciousness or a formless form, that almost goes right back to the Old Testament, for that matter. It's a formless being. I don't mean, like you said, even in the book, we're not talking about an intelligent design or a God. But yet at the same time, we are put on this planet to explain it, to experience. We have that purpose. Do you not agree with that? Or do we have no purpose? Our purpose is to figure this out.
I would like to believe that, but is it possible to figure it out? Because everything that we call reality is an experience, and we cannot explain experience. We can come up with rational explanations what we think, but even to say this is a rational explanation assumes that you know what a thought is or what the source of thought is, because all rationality is built around thinking, right? Observation, thinking, etc. But we don't know what the source of thought is. Can you tell me where a thought comes from? Can you tell me what your next thought is going to be?
If I could, then I would have been the Einstein of this discussion. The point being, though, is I am certain that we are going to figure it out. You're certain. You even in the book even let us know that our conscious universe responds to how we think and feel. So if it does respond to how we think and feel, the only question you're really asking, at least in the book, is how deeply does that intervention go?
So let me pose another question. We've both been using the word I. In the book you pose this, I think we'll figure it out. What do we mean by I?
What do we mean by I?
What do you mean by
What do I mean by it? I believe, and again, the reason why I had you on is because I believed you believe this, so I'm assuming you still do. The brain, our brain, not our mind, is a receiver. That receiver, the way we perceive perception, like you said, it's just chemical processes. As I mentioned before, the great physicist Gerald Schroeder says, when I spoke to him and I said, with that in mind, if a tree falls in the forest, we do know it doesn't make a sound. We absolutely know that now. We know it makes a sound wave, but unless there is some sentient being to perceive it, there's no, quote, sound. There's no sound in the brain. You go over that. You could put a stethoscope to the brain, as you said. So the I, quote, unquote, is what I believe you were calling consciousness. Now, maybe that's where I'm making the mistake in this.
No, you're right.
I believe it's the consciousness. That consciousness is coming from some form, formless form. Let's leave it at that. I agree. I don't know what that formless form is. Maybe we'll never know what that formless form is, but I do know our purpose is to keep trying to find out what it is.
But that which you're trying to find out is the one that's doing the looking. So
the observer, you call it.
The observer. It's the one that's doing the looking. You are not in your body. The body is an experience in you. You're not in the mind is an experience in you. And ultimately, you're not in the universe is an experience in you. How do you experience the universe? In the same way as you experience these shoes or this mug. Sensations, sense perception, sound, touch, sight, taste, smell, images, feelings, and thoughts, period. The rest is a story. Okay? The body is a story about that experience. The mind is a story about that experience. In reality, you are a formless being having the experience of form. Even the brain is an experience in consciousness. How do you know you have a brain? Well, you see it on a CAT scan in the same way as you see this. So the brain is what the mind looks like to a third-person observer. Brain and mind are complementarities of a deeper, fundamental, invisible, formless, timeless, spaceless being. And being that, it is, I hate to say the word eternal because you start to think of in religious terms, it is timeless. It's not in time.
No, in fact, I love the fact that you use eternal, because I do believe
But eternal
in
doesn't
eternal.
mean stretching in endless time. Eternal means not in time altogether.
I had on, and I know this is someone I think you might have even debated with, I had on two guests, Sam Harris and another great, Richard Dawkins, who's, by the way, wrote The Selfish Gene, which originally was titled The Immortal Gene, because there is, whether you use Einstein's theory of relativity in time a lot in the book, and that perception as well, by the way, is a perception. So even when, no offense, but even when you're describing that there's no form, that's a perception. What you say even in the book is that these paradigms that we've all lived our lives by are self-fulfilling. So the only way we can actually get out of it is to jump out of them ourselves, which I believe is the essence of what you're doing here. So I think in that sense, the perception is maybe from a formless, timeless, and eternal, in your sense, no time, but it is still within us to make those perceptions. That's why we're here.
Let me quote you from the Vedanta, which is a non-dual Eastern system of thinking, system of thought. Remember, we operate in systems of thought, whether it's science or philosophy or theology. These are all systems of thought without knowing the source of thought. So in the Vedanta, they say the real essence of being is such that water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it, fire cannot burn it, weapons cannot shatter it. It is unborn. It is not subject to death. It is timeless. What is subject to birth and death is experience, whether it's a thought, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a sense perception. That is an experience. You're not the experience. You're the being in which that experience is happening. And that being is because it has no form, it is eternal, timeless, and it's who you are. Now, not knowing that, what happens is human suffering comes from grasping and clinging at experience, which is over as soon as it's born. It comes from impermanence, the fear of impermanence, which is the nature of all reality. It comes from a social construct called the ego. It comes from the fear of death. But the real you is not in time, so not subject in birth and death. Only experience is subject in birth, is subject to birth and death. So when you let me ask you to do something right now, okay?
You can. I may edit it, though. Go ahead.
Okay. As you're listening to me
Yes.
right now, just be aware of who's listening. We can ask people who are watching us to do the same, to become aware of that which is having the experience. And immediately, you're in a presence which is timeless. Do you feel it?
Totally.
Okay. So now let me ask you another question. This is a technique employed by non-dual thinkers. I'm going to ask you, are you aware right now?
Am I aware right now?
Yeah.
I have never been more aware in all my life.
Okay, so you're aware. Now, of course you're aware. We're having a conversation.
Exactly. And
So
in fact, I have to be more aware of it than even you do.
okay, so now I'm going to ask you the same question, and don't answer yes till I raise my hand. Will you try that? Do you agree to do that?
I will do my best.
Barry, are you aware?
Yes.
So are you aware is a thought. Yes is a thought. In between is awareness. Okay, now let me ask you the same question, are you aware? This time don't answer it at all, just slip into it. Are you aware? This presence is timeless. It was the same when you were a baby, but the baby had a different body, different mind, different personality. It was the same when you were a teenager. The presence in which experience happens. In fact, there is no such thing as a body. It's just an intermittent stream of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, which are arising in awareness, which are occurring in awareness, which are known in awareness, which subside in awareness, and then we interpret that as the body, as if it's a noun. The body is not a noun, it's a verb, it's an activity in awareness, of awareness. And the only thing that's real is awareness. So, you know, religious traditions might call it a soul, then they might start looking for it, because you can't look for something that has no form. It's the one that's doing the looking.
But you say in the book, and these are your words, or maybe they're Menas's words, I'm not sure. We participate in the universe by finding order and figuring out where those patterns come from. So even if the body, and by the way, in the book, you say that even the body is not 100% nothing. You say it's 99.99% nothing.
Well,
so there
if you go to the most fundamental levels of existence,
right.
Either way, subjectively or objectively, you end up with subatomic particles that are moving at lightning speeds around
right.
huge empty spaces. And of course, people say now those particles are also waves, and unlike particles which have units of mass and energy, waves have no units of mass and energy. The empirical world is just the crest of the huge ocean of unmanifest, invisible, immeasurable potential of all that was, all that is, all that will ever be.
Again, without even having to disagree with that, I could agree with that completely. But I want to go back, because when you take out the essence of what we're here for, which I know you don't believe or do, even if we're basic nothingness, as you say, it still is our job, or any sentient, let's even say our job, let's say any sentient, maybe it's a snail's job, I don't know, whatever is sentient and whatever that even means, it's up to us to fill in those gaps. So even if those gaps exist, and they do, we're still the ones, A, conceiving of those gaps. Nobody else here is conceiving of it. We're thinking of them. We're even, according to you, doing our best to fill in those gaps.
Well, it's very interesting. Right now, if you ask scientists, what's the universe made of?
99% nothing, right?
99.99% nothing.
Right.
Because the visible universe is, the atomic universe is 4%, of which most of it is invisible interstellar dust. The visible universe is 0.01%, which according to current science is 2 trillion galaxies, 700 sextillion stars, and probably trillions of planets. That's 0.01%. The rest is invisible, sub-empirical, or whatever. And I think it's just a placeholder for all these mathematical models that science comes up with, you know, the core theory, the standard model. In fact, even the visible universe, if it's atomic and if atoms are waves of possibility at the same time, then the whole thing is made out of nothing. And the question is, what is the nothingness from where we come? Is it just an empty void, or is it the womb of creation? Is it who you are actually? Because, you know, I spend lots of time in meditation, Lots of time in meditation. The first
It
question.
almost sounds like a little too much time
No.
now, Doc.
So, you know, I've asked myself, who am I? Many times. Who am I if I took away all the constructs, body, mind, experience? What I am is the potential for experience.
Wait. Let's hold that thought for a second.
Yes.
The potential for experience.
Correct.
You therefore then say about the potential, the perfect match between human beings and the universe is about a meeting of the minds, the human mind and that cosmic mind. So there is, according to you, some interplay between the nothingness of the cosmos and the nothingness of ourselves.
Absolutely. We're a differentiated aspect of that one mind. Differentiation doesn't mean separation. Like, you know, your liver is a differentiated aspect of the same cell that you started with. You know, when you were conceived, there was one cell. It multiplied 50 times, and you had 100 trillion cells, which is more than all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Now the liver cell looks very different, and the kidney cell looks very different from the neuron, but it's still the same cell differentiated into a different pattern of behavior. So your mind is a differentiated aspect of the one mind, which is the immeasurable potential of all that was, is, and will be. Now, other sentient beings, you know, let's see an insect with 100 eyes. What does the world look like to that? What is the world's experience to a bat that navigates through the echo of ultrasound? What is the world's experience to a dolphin? You have no idea, and yet we all are living beings, we are sentient beings having an experience. The point is, there's no such thing as the look of the world. There's only ways of looking at it, and those ways of looking at it are the differentiation of species of consciousness. You and I are a species of consciousness, and we are an interesting species because we have language. Once we created language, we created constructs. So everything that we describe, from bosons to electrons to particles to galaxies, these are modes of knowing and experience in awareness.
But that's why you use these words. The cosmos, which I'm going to interpret from this, is not just the outer cosmos, but the inner cosmos, the quantum as well as the cosmic. It is thinking through you. Those are the words you use.
It is thinking, and it's one mode of thinking, right? It's also thinking through a paramecium that's trying to avoid toxins and trying to get food.
We're all trying to do the same thing, basically.
In a way. But, you know, we have started to ask ourselves more meaningful questions. Who am I? What do I want? Is there a purpose to my existence? What is the meaning of death? Is there order in the universe, or am I imposing the order of the universe? We have become, literally, the universe knowing itself through this body-mind apparatus.
And I can't think of a better way to sum this up, but with your own words. Your purpose, therefore, is to align yourself with the creativity of that cosmos, of that timeless, non-existent being.
The only thing that exists is that. Everything else is a fluctuation in that. So yes, our purpose is to, ultimately I want me to be in the state of what is called choiceless awareness. Because when I'm in choiceless awareness, just being, then the entire universe is spontaneously evolving through me. The entire universe is expressing itself as mind and body in me. The entire universe is self-organizing in me. The entire universe is self-regulating in me. And what we call creativity and evolution is a never-ending horizon that never stops. So we don't need to think that evolution has stopped with us. It's going to keep going on eternally.
And I am going to be there with it, and I hope you will be joining me too. Dr. Chopra, It has been a pleasure and an honor, as always,
My
sir.
pleasure.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. Now I'd like to leave you with these few more words. Maybe they're not my words, maybe they're not Dr. Chopra's, maybe they're the actual cosmic words, but they are in the book. You are the universe. For human beings, participating in the universe is how we exist. To exist is to be aware. That's the long and the short of it for human beings. Astonishingly, the same is true for the universe. I'm Barry Kibrick. There is nothing between you and the universe. Enjoy the connection and stay aware. Thank you so much, Dr. Chopra. My pleasure. This has been a thrill.
To connect with Barry, like him on Facebook and follow him on Twitter @Barry Kibrick. And to contact Barry directly, view past episodes of Between the Lines, and read his weekly blog, visit us at barrykibrick.com. Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick is made possible in part by Sam Ash Music, a proud sponsor of Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick. Sam Ash has been serving musicians since 1924. To unlock your inner musician, information is available at samash.com.